The cooperation between Elon Musk and the Pentagon, without a doubt, has the potential to bring about significant change by upping the Pentagon's technological game in a good way at a rapid pace. You must be interested in learning what the contract's objective is, don't you? What was the nature of the conversation and agreement reached between the Pentagon and Elon Musk? Stay put and make sure you don't miss anything as we expose the details of Elon Musk's deal with the United States Department of Defense. What was Elon Musk doing in the Pentagon? And what was the nature of the contract? Reaching space used to be a pipe dream and a fantasy, but because of the often occurring activity in and around the Earth's solar system, as well as a new era of technology, it has become less difficult. Currently, the space industry is experiencing a brief resurgence and is extending beyond its mining routes to include a variety of other operations. President Barack Obama's Secretary of Defense, Ash Carter, recently met with Elon Musk to discuss ways to improve and elevate the Pentagon's technological capabilities. According to a spokesman for the Department of Defense, the goal of the small, informal, and social meeting was to create and develop new technologies. Musk is continually on the lookout for ways to increase the number of government commercial contracts that SpaceX can get, such as putting additional satellites into Earth's orbit, regardless of the level of competition or hurdles. The Secretary of Defense, Ash Carter, has deemed it necessary to propagate and improve the links between the department and technology industries, particularly from the private sectors. In conjunction with Carter's consistent and numerous meetings in Silicon Valley, and the setting up of the Defense Innovation Unit Experimental, which is popularly known as DIUX, in Silicon Valley and Boston, during Carter's speech production in San Francisco in March, he mentioned that DIUX centers would make it possible for the Pentagon to build connections or mutual dealings with local companies, also in conjunction with tapping into the extended spatial location of the innovation ecosystem. In testing the cybersecurity of the department, the Pentagon established certain authorities in accepting hackers, who can recognize and make better decisions in solving the department's cyber susceptibility, which is perfectly working and common amongst the private sector. At the end of the day, Musk has already engaged in the tasks that were expected of him as a member of the military-industrial complex, in addition to actively operating and engaging in military contractual agreement to acquire rocket launch services in order to get a military satellite into orbit. Elon Musk's private space exploration company has been engaged in military contractual agreement to acquire rocket launch services in order to get a military satellite into orbit. Choosing the winner of the contract resulted in a contentious battle that was anticipated to result in various disputes. The United Launch Alliance, ULA, controlled and wielded increased authority in commercial launches for massive and expensive military satellites in the United States of America for nearly a decade, 10 years. The Air Force was sued by SpaceX in 2014 over a contract handed to ULA without any competition, and there were repeated satellite launch contests between SpaceX and ULA before SpaceX got certified, enabling them to launch military satellites in 2015. The Air Force settled the lawsuit in 2015. The successful landing of the bottom stage of the Falcon 9 rocket on its drone ship in April gave SpaceX the opportunity to reuse rockets for future successful launches, allowing the company to save a limitless amount of money and time on capital expenditures. In April, SpaceX was given its first contract, worth $82.7 million, to launch the Air Force's next-generation GPS satellite in 2018. However, there was another qualified and certified launch provider, known as the United Launch Alliance. It represents a joint venture between Boeing and Lockheed Martin. ULA's Atlas space rocket made use of the rocket engines produced and manufactured by the Russians. The refusal and continuous use of engines manufactured by the Russians prompted the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, Senator John McCain, to aggressively strike the Department of Defense and Air Force for their consistent dependence on the space rocket engines produced and manufactured by the Russians, which was a disappointment and a shame. His aggression was aimed at pushing the Air Force and Department of Defense to the edge in making amendments. In a committee hearing occurrence, McCain, out of grievance, instigated and charged the U.S. with giving out tens of millions of dollars to corrupt political leaders of Russia for the RD-180 rocket engine manufactured by the Russians. He made mention of the board members managing and controlling the same Russian companies producing these engines as members placed under sanction in 2014, the Russian armed annexation of Crimea. Conclusively, he referred to those members as criminals or thugs, relating to the fear of the ULA being uncompetitive with SpaceX. Positioning SpaceX in command and possession of military space launches leaves the Air Force and Department of Defense with no choice but to continue purchasing Russian engines. Could the partnership between Elon Musk and the head of the Department of Defense, Carter, bring about innovations and modernize the American military? Carter has worked tirelessly to establish a link between the Pentagon and Silicon Valley, making him the first Secretary of Defense to visit Silicon Valley in 20 years. In California, Carter gave a speech on innovation as it regards Silicon Valley. In a speech given by Carter, he said that he began his career in physics and that the majority of the technology that originated in America was sponsored by the government, specifically the Department of Defense. Carter believes America is still presently a major sponsor of technology on a commercial and global basis. Notwithstanding, nations like Russia and China are developing their militaries to close the technological distance between them to keep up. Carter has been pushing and encouraging the Pentagon to work relentlessly on improving themselves outside the box, particularly to enforce change and put more effort into innovation. According to the space industry publication, business between Elon Musk's spaceflight company and the Department of Defense commenced planning to launch a spy satellite for the National Reconnaissance Office in 2017. The SpaceX rocket remains the cheapest to fly compared to other competitors, like the United Launch Alliance, while Musk promotes a profitable relationship between government entities and private companies. SpaceX's solid support is established by its consistent contracts with NASA. SpaceX won a vital contract to fly cargo to the International Space Station for the agency, using its spaceflight company, the Falcon 9 rocket, and the Dragon capsule. We are now working to establish a satisfactory contract for flying astronauts to space stations on a consistent basis, and within the desired or approved time frame. As expected, the diverse connections amongst each other could result in dispute or disagreement. On the other hand, SpaceX has been able to make use of a single Falcon booster several times, rounding up to about 10. On the other hand, making extensive use of the nose cones also prevents SpaceX from spending millions of dollars, the way other competitors do. On a few occasions, the company deemed it fit to make the booster brighter and browner, back to its actual appearance after 10 launches and landings. But according to Musk, SpaceX is less concerned, and with the success of this, the company can now effortlessly organize a few or more Falcon 9 boosters to launch successfully when approved, as many as 30 times each or more. The United Launch Alliance has been developing its Vulcan rocket to replace its previously used Atlas and Delta rockets, and, more importantly, to end the use of rocket engines manufactured and produced by the Russians. For ULA to make vital use of the Vulcan rocket engine, the plan to obtain it back by catching or restraining it with a parachute and helicopter was approved to make use of it after its launch and landing. The company, ULA, has not considered or looked forward to announcing its plans to examine such a system. In addition, the ULA's first Vulcan launches are expected to be of little significance or destroyed, burning up parts of the rocket while in the atmosphere or dropping into the ocean. What do you think about Elon Musk finally revealing a partnership with the Pentagon? Could there be a big change in technology in America, closing the gap between China and Russia, modernizing and keeping America back on track at the top, or not? Speaking of America's aggressively encouraging and pushing the Department of Defense to work effectively and think outside the box, is that enough reason to make the Americans come up with better plans towards manufacturing and maintaining their rocket engines? And could there be financial backups? Could Musk be a push-up or motivator for the American government and other private companies rather than resentful? Let us know what you think about all this by leaving a comment below.